Efforts to change what is often referred to as a school-to-prison pipeline.
6 News' Brian Mastery tonight on why the push also involves preschoolers.
There's a significant disparity in terms of who we are disciplining. We are disciplining minority children, and we are disciplining children on the basis of disability.
Several children's rights experts testified before Nebraska Legislature's Education Committee on the importance of keeping kids in school when they misbehave, with a focus today on those between pre-K and second grade.
Preschool children are 3 times more likely than K-12 children to be suspended or expelled.
Students that are pushed out of classrooms are much more likely to be introduced into the criminal justice system.
Senator Terrell McKinney's bill would prohibit schools from suspending pre-K to second graders, essentially pushing Omaha to find alternatives for disciplining students.
I used to get suspended a lot. I know everybody thinks I'm quiet now and some people think I'm sweet or whatever, but I used to get suspended a lot, and I used to have issues dealing with classmates and teachers.
Senator believes teachers need more resources and training for best practices. After all, he believes this is key in Omaha to reduce the number of kids who end up in the criminal justice system.
Not to knock the teachers, because I don't think it's the teachers. I think our schools are overburdened with things, and we're just kicking kids out and throwing them to the wolves.
On your side in Omaha, Brian Mastery, 6 News.
Another bill heard this afternoon is a companion piece, which, if a student was expelled, would require the school district to have specific requirements for coursework while they are in alternative school.